أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم كن وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Firstly, عظم الله أجوركم بشهادة السيدة زينب صلوات الله وسلامه عليها. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to be from her sincere followers in this world and the next. In our last lesson, we mentioned two main points. Firstly, we shed light on the words of Imam Rida alayhi salatu wassalam, the words he used to address a Jewish scholar when he was debating with multiple scholars from different religions in the gathering of Al-Ma'mun. I told you that was a part of the lengthy debate which took place. That part revolved around what? It revolved around the miracles of the Prophets alayhimus salam. Long story short, Imam Rida salamullahi alayh told the Jewish scholar that basically you believed in Musa alayhi salam because Musa performed miracles. Yet you did not witness the miracles of Musa alayhi salam. However, the companions of Musa, the trusted companions of Musa, narrated what happened. And that news was passed down. Those narrations were passed down from one generation to another until they reached you, O Jewish scholar, and your likes. Hence you believed in Musa's prophethood, which is reasonable, it's acceptable. Why? Because mutawatir traditions stated that Musa alayhi salam performed miracles, such as turning the staff into a serpent, such as parting the sea, and other miracles that we mentioned. Imam Rida's main point alayhi salam was, or one of his main points was, if you believed in Musa, then you should also believe in Isa and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala Isa. Because they also performed miracles. And their miracles were narrated by their trusted companions and passed down from generation to generation. Hence there are what mutawatir, chains of narrators, narrating the miracles of Isa and the miracles of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala Isa. So why don't you believe in them both? That is the summary of what took place between Imam Rida alayhi salam and the Jewish scholar. The second point we shed light on was one of the main events which took place after Rasulullah entered Medina. And that was the building of the mosque. Building the mosque of Rasulullah, the prophetic mosque. Yes, the one with the green dome, in which Rasulullah is buried today, sallallahu alayhi wa. I told you last week that when the mosque was initially built, it was much smaller than it is today. The mosque of Rasulullah was expanded during the days of Banu Umayyah, alayhimul la'na, and it was expanded after Banu Umayyah as well. So the mosque we have today consists of the initial mosque and other parts that were added when the masjid was expanded. When Rasulullah was building the mosque, we said he himself participated in building it with some of the muhajirin and some of the ansar. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, as usual, was participating with full enthusiasm and was reciting couplets of poetry, which indicated that those who participate in building the mosque are better in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than those who stand away because they don't want to become dusty. They don't want dust to come on their clothing or their bodies. This also indicated what? It indicated that there were certain companions of the Prophet who weren't participating in building the mosque because they didn't want to become dusty. They didn't want the dust to come on their bodies or their clothing. Who hears the couplets of poetry? Ammar bin Yasir rahmatullah alayh. So Ammar begins reciting the couplets. He memorizes them and he begins reciting them. Here, a particular companion, which was standing away from the site, wherever they were building the mosque, understood or assumed, let me say, he assumed that Ammar was indirectly speaking about him. So he got offended. And he came to Ammar rahmatullah alayh and threatened him. This is where we stopped. Today, inshallah, we want to see, number one, who is that companion? What did he tell Ammar? How did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi respond? And where did the Prophet take the Muslims when this happened? Yani, how did Rasulullah use that incident to mention a very important incident which will take place in the future? You see, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi would make use of opportunities in order to speak about Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, speak about their status or imamate, or in order to mention certain vital incidents which would happen in the future. Finally, we're going to shed light, if we have enough time, also on a particular dispute which happens after Rasulullah's death, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, between Ammar bin Yasir and the same companion who threatened him when they were building the mosque of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. So the question is, who is the companion who got offended? With all due respect to our Sunni brothers and sisters, according to historians, it is Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan. طبعا, some have said it was Uthman bin Mad'un, rahmatullah alayh. Uthman bin Mad'un was a companion loved by Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam Ali would love Uthman bin Mad'un, rahmatullah alayh. And he was a shaheed, a martyr who was buried in Baqiyah. Because Imam Ali alayhi salam loved Uthman ibn Mad'un, he named one of his children from al-Banin, Uthman. I want you to keep this point in mind because usually this question comes to mind. If Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam wasn't pleased with the first three caliphs, then why would he name his son, the son from al-Banin, one of his sons from al-Banin, Uthman? The answer is he named him after Uthman bin Mad'un, not after Uthman bin Affan. There were plenty of Uthmans out there. Especially if you remember, keep also this point in mind, that during the days of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi and Imam Ali and Hassan and Hussain salamullah alayhim, the names Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman were widely spread. So Abu Bakr bin Abi Quhafa, the first caliph, wasn't the only one called Abu Bakr. La, there are other people called Abu Bakr. Umar wasn't the only Umar. There are other Umars as well. And same goes for Uthman. The names were spread. They were widely spread. So if you named your son Abu Bakr during the days of the Prophet, or you named him Umar or Uthman, people wouldn't understand that you're naming him after Abu Bakr bin Abi Quhafa, or Umar ibn al-Khattab, or Uthman bin Affan. Whereas today, if you name your son Abu Bakr or Umar or Uthman, then people assume, they directly assume you're naming him after one of the three caliphs. So some historians said it was Uthman bin Mad'un, but it seems to be Uthman bin Affan. There's evidence and proof indicating it's Uthman bin Affan. One of the proofs that it was Uthman bin Affan is some historians didn't mention the name of the companion. They said that someone got offended by Ammar bin Yasir and he, threatened him, but they wouldn't mention his name. Them not mentioning his name indicates that this individual has, a lofty status in the eyes of a good amount of Muslims, such that the historian didn't want to mention his name out of his love for that companion or out of fear because he doesn't want to put himself in an awkward situation. Nonetheless, what happened between Uthman bin Affan and Ammar? Let me send you the exact word that Uthman said to Ammar rahmatullah alayh. He came to him as he had a baton, a asa, a baton or a staff. And he said, قَدْ سَمِعْتُ مَا تَقُولُ مُنْذُ الْيَوْمَ يَبْنَ سُمَيَّةَ. I have heard what you've been saying today, O son of Sumayya. Who is Sumayya? Sumayya is Ammar's mother, rahimahullah, the first female martyr in Islamic history. Sumayya and Yasir. Sumayya was the first female martyr in Islamic history, and Yasir was the first male martyr in Islamic history. Both were Ammar's parents, rahmatullah alayhim. So he tells him, I've heard what you've been saying today, O son of Sumayya. Wallah, inni la arani sa'a'ridu hadhihi al-'asa or sa'u'arridu hadhihi al-'asa li'anfik. He says, I swear by Allah, I can see myself soon hitting your nose with this staff or with this baton. So basically he was telling him that I'm fed up with what you're saying, and because of what you said, I'm going to strike you on your nose with my baton or with my staff. Here we need to pause for a moment and shed light on the word Ibn Sumayya, Yabna Sumayya. Why would Uthman call Ammar, O son of Sumayya? It's as if he's degrading Ammar through Sumayya, rahimahullah. You need to understand one point, and that is usually, not all the time, but usually back then, during the days of Rasulullah, when a person would address someone using his mother's name, he might be indicating that his mother, his mother committed haram, she committed fornication, and that he is an unlawful child, not a child that, came from a lawful relationship. Mathalan, for example, Zarqa. Zarqa was the mother of Marwan ibn al-Hakam. Marwan ibn al-Hakam, alayhi al-la'na. When Marwan threatened Imam Hussain salawatullah alayh, when Imam Hussain was in the courtyard of Walid. When did this happen? It happened in the month of Rajab, during the last days of Rajab, when Imam Hussain was demanded to pledge allegiance by Yazid. Who demanded him to do so? Al-Walid, who was the governor of Yazid in Medina. So the Imam refrained from doing so. Marwan told Al-Walid, he told him to force the Imam to pledge allegiance, and if he doesn't pledge allegiance, to behead him. So the Imam addressed Marwan, telling him, O son of Zarqa, who is going to behead me? You? Who is going to kill me? You or him? And then Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam said his golden words, and all of his words are golden. His golden words regarding pledging allegiance to Yazid and how he will never pledge allegiance to Yazid alayhi Allah. Now his word, O son of Zarqa, means what exactly? The Imam was reminding Marwan ibn al-Hakam of his mother's reputation. His mother, forgive me for my words, was a prostitute. Jayyid? So the Imam ﷺ was reminding him that you, Marwan ibn al-Hakam, you should know who you are. And you should know your limits. Your mother is Zarqa. And you know what I mean when I say, O son of Zarqa. So, here when Uthman says to Ammar, Yabna Sumayya, this is a bizarre word. Because if you call someone Ibn Sumayya, you're not insulting him. Sumayya rahmatullah alayha was a noble lady. That's one. Number two, she was a shaheed. She was a martyr. The first female martyr. So calling him Yabna Sumayya is quite bizarre from Uthman. As in, what was Uthman alluding to? It's not that you can put Ammar down by calling him Ibn Sumayya. It's an honor to be Ibn Sumayya. I hope my words are clear. So it seems that, there's an attempt to kind of degrade Sumayya, rahimahullah. Nonetheless, what happened at that point? How did Rasulullah respond, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi? The tradition says that the Prophet became angry and he said the following word. Let me also send you the word of Rasulullah. He said, مَا لَهُمْ وَلِعَمَّارٍ What business do they have with Ammar? يَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَيَدْعُونَهُ إِلَى النَّارِ He says Ammar is calling them to heaven. When Ammar was reciting his couplets of poetry, the couplets he learned from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, Ammar's intention was clean. He wanted to encourage people to come and build the mosque of Rasulullah. If you build the mosque of Rasulullah, then you're doing a good deed. And hopefully that good deed will lead you where? It will lead you to heaven. So Ammar is calling you to heaven. So he said, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, يَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ Ammar is calling them to heaven. وَيَدْعُونَهُ إِلَى النَّارِ Yet, they call him to hellfire. They call him to hellfire. Here, actually, let me just finish Rasulullah's word and then we'll come back to this specific part. Then he said, إِنَّ عَمَّارَ جِلْدَةَ مَا بَيْنَ عَيْنِي وَأَنْفِي Surely Ammar is the skin that lies between my nose and my eye. Obviously, Rasulullah is speaking in a figurative manner. Because Ammar is not literally the skin between Rasulullah's nose and eye. What is meant here is that Ammar has a very special spot in Rasulullah's heart. And he's extremely close to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. I mean, think about it. How close is the skin that lies between your nose and eye? How close is it to you? It's very close. صح? The least we can understand from this segment, إِنَّ عَمَّارَ جِلْدَةُ مَا بَيْنَ عَيْنِي وَأَنْفِي is that Ammar is extremely close to me. So it's as if the Prophet is telling them, don't hurt Ammar. Don't insult him. Make sure you treat him well because this individual is one of the gems amongst my companions. And truly he was. You can't, compare any average companion to Ammar ibn Yasir. Ammar was from the elite. The companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were from different categories. Some were good people, but they weren't so close to Rasulullah. Whereas some were extraordinary people, such as the four individuals that all of us know, Salman, Abu Dhar, Al-Miqdad, and Ammar. And of course, such as Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, Khuzayma ibn Thabit, Dush Shahadatain, Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, Abu Dujana, Sahel ibn Hunayf, Uthman bin Hunayf, and others. May Allah bless their souls. Ammar was from the elite. Now, what's interesting is he says what? He says, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, يَدْعُونَهُ إِلَى النَّارِ. They call him to hellfire. What does Rasulullah mean by this word? As in, what is he alluding to? Is he alluding to Uthman's behavior specifically? That's a possibility. That's a possibility. But he's definitely alluding to something else as well. Here, Rasulullah is referring to the Battle of Siffin. You see, I told you in the introduction that Rasulullah would make use of opportunities to remind people of the status of Ahlul Bayt or future events. Rasulullah knows that after his death, by about 30 years, less than 30 years of course, by about 26 or 27 years, the Battle of Siffin will take place. In the Battle of Siffin, Imam Ali alayhi salam and his army will clash with Muawiyah and his army. And Ammar will be on whose side? On the side of Imam Ali, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Ammar will be calling people to heaven by telling them to follow Imam Ali. But the opposition will be calling Ammar to hellfire as they do what? As they fight Imam Ali and as they tell others to rise against Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Rising against Imam Ali, fighting Imam Ali, all of that leads you where? It leads you to Jahannam, to hellfire. What supports this point is a narration that Sahih al-Bukhari mentioned. So what supports that Rasulullah was referring to the Battle of Siffin when the conflict happened between Uthman bin Affan and Ammar ibn Yasir is a narration in Sahih al-Bukhari, which we narrated before, but most of you were not present. I think we narrated this narration last year or the year before. Nonetheless, let us take a look at it one more time. The narration in Sahih al-Bukhari is found in the chapter of Salah, Kitab al-Salah, in a subchapter called التعاون في بناء المسجد, باب التعاون في بناء المسجد. So that subchapter basically speaks about helping others in building mosques. What does the tradition say? Ikrimah, a man called Ikrimah, says, قال لي ابن عباس ولابنه علي انطلقا إلى أبي سعيد. So Ikrimah says, Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Abbas rahmatullah alayh, he addressed me one day and he told me and his son Ali, go to Abu Sa'id. Abu Sa'id, most likely this is Abu Sa'id al-Khidri. Abu Sa'id al-Khidri was also from Imam Ali's Shi'as, alayhi salam. He says, go to Abu Sa'id, فَاسْمَعَا مِنْ حَدِيثِهِ. Go to him and listen to his words, meaning to his narrations. What will he narrate to you? فَانْطَلَقَا فَإِذَا هُوَ فِي حَائِطٍ يُصْلِحُهُ. Both of them went to Abu Sa'id and they found that Abu Sa'id was working in a garden of his, or a garden for someone else. He was working in a garden. فَأَخَذَ رِدَاءَهُ فَاحْتَبَهُ. At that moment, Abu Sa'id took his cloak and covered his body with the cloak, meaning he was ready to, converse with Ali, the son of Abdullah bin Abbas, and with Ikrimah, and to inform them about certain things regarding Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. ثم أنشأ يحدثنا حتى أتى ذكر بناء المسجد. He says, he went on speaking to us until he mentioned what took place when the mosque of Rasulullah was built. فقال كنا نحمل لبنة لبنة وعمار لبنتين لبنتين. He says we, meaning Muslims in general, would carry one brick at a time, whereas Ammar was carrying 2 bricks at a time. 2 bricks. So look at his energy. He's very energetic, very passionate about very passionate in building the mosque and helping Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فرآه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. We say صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. فينفض التراب عنه ويقول ويح عمار. He says here the Prophet saw Ammar, so he began wiping the dust and pushing the dust off of Ammar, and he said, he was saying what? ويح عمار. Wayh is a word which indicates that you're feeling sympathy towards someone and you're feeling pity towards him. So it's as if the Prophet is saying, my heart breaks for Ammar, or I feel a sense of kindness and mercy towards Ammar. Why, Ya Rasulullah? He says, وَيْحَ عَمَّارْ تَقْتُلُهُ الْفِئَةُ الْبَاغِيَةُ. The transgressive group shall kill him. Ya subhanallah. The Prophet is building a mosque. Ammar is dusty as he's building the mosque. And all of a sudden Rasulullah is taking us where? He's taking us to Siffin. Right? He's taking us to Siffin. This is how he would make use of opportunities. Then he says, يَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَيَدْعُونَهُ إِلَى النَّارِ. He will be calling them to heaven by telling them what? Follow Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. And they will be calling him to hellfire. This is the exact word we read a few minutes ago. صح? It's the exact word. So it seems Rasulullah was referring to the battle of Siffin. قال يقول عمار أعوذ بالله من الفتن. When Ammar heard this word from the Prophet, he said, I seek refuge in Allah from fitan. What's fitan? Fitan is the plural word of fitna. And fitna literally means imtihan. It means test. However, sometimes the word fitna is used to refer to other matters as well, such as division. For example, sometimes you'll hear people telling others, don't do the following deed, or don't say the following word in public because it will cause fitna, meaning it will cause what? It will cause division. Why is division called fitna? Because when division happens, or conflicts happen, people are tested. They're tested. What will they do in that conflict? Whose side shall they take? Taban, keep this point in mind. When a conflict happens, sometimes you're not supposed to take any sides. Yes, you always need to be with the truth. Look at the truth, understand where does it lie, and be with it. Sometimes what's right to do is not to take any sides. Rather, to sit down and watch. I'll give you an example. When Amin and Ma'mun clashed, Amin and Ma'mun were who? Amin and Ma'mun were the sons of Harun al-Abbasi. Al-Ma'mun had power in Persia, Iran and its surroundings. Al-Amin had power in the Arabic territories, such as Iraq and its surroundings. Harun al-Abbasi did a grave mistake. He died, and these two individuals were in power. However, Amin was supposed to be the caliph. Al-Amin was supposed to be the caliph after Harun al-Abbasi. But Ma'mun wanted to be the caliph. So what took place? A huge battle happened between these two individuals, between their armies, of course. And at the end, Al-Ma'mun defeated Al-Amin and beheaded him. Al-Amin was beheaded by his own brother. Why? For power. Hala, if I or you were in that era, whose side should we take? The answer is no one's side. Both of them are dhalimeen. So your duty is to do what? Is to stay away from that fitna. Stay away and remain with your Imam Ali Rida alayhi salat wassalam. The word fitna is used sometimes to refer to conflicts or division, because when conflicts happen or division takes place, people are tested. It's also used sometimes to refer to misguidance. مثلا, we'll say that there's a lot of fitna in our era, meaning a lot of misguidance. Why is misguidance called fitna? Because when there's misguidance or extra misguidance, the test gets harder. Or the least we can say, people are tested. Will they give in to that misguidance, or will they stay on the straight path? So we realize here Ammar rahmatullah alayh wasn't, quivering in his boots when Rasulullah said تَقْتُلُهُ الْفِئَةُ الْبَاغِيَةُ. On the contrary, he was pleased with his fate, and he was saying أعوذ بالله من الفتن. For those of you who are asking, who is al-fi'atul baghiyah? Who is this transgressive group? It is the group of Muawiyah. The group of Muawiyah. Basically, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted to support his cousin and spiritual brother and successor Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam in various means. And he knew that after his death, the majority of the nation will abandon Imam Ali alayhi salam and backstab him, unfortunately. Thus, the Prophet wanted to aid the Imam as much as possible. Hence, he told the Muslims that in the Battle of Siffin, Ammar is going to be killed. When Ammar is killed, you should know, O Muslims, that his killers are the transgressive group. So they're the ones who are unjust. They're on the wrong side. Now, the days passed, Siffin happened, and Ammar was killed. So here, this was another sign indicating that Imam Ali alayhi salam was the Imam of truth, and that standing with Imam Ali was the right thing. Now you might ask, are you saying that certain people actually needed that sign? Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes. Some people were so lost that they needed this sign, the killing of Ammar, to actually understand that Imam Ali is on the right side, alayhi salatu salam. Although Imam Ali doesn't really need Ammar if you think about it. Amir al-Mu'mineen is the Imam of truth, salamullahi alayh. If you understand Imam Ali, you'll know that he is the embodiment of the truth and that you should follow him. But even then, Rasulullah wanted to support the Imam through that sign. Thus, when Ammar was killed, people realized that, Muawiyah's party is the one that killed him, which means Muawiyah and his people are wrong. Here, Amr ibn al-As, the devious man, you can call him, the human Satan. He was really devious. He came out with a plot. He said, "Sahih, taqtuluhu al-fi'atu al-baghiyah." The transgressive group is the one who killed Ammar, and no one killed him other than Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Because Ali ibn Abi Talib is the one who brought him to Siffin. Look at that reasoning. Ali brought Ammar to Siffin, so it's Ali's fault that Ammar was killed. In fact, Ali is the killer of Ammar rahmatullah alayh. Imam Ali alayhi salam responded, you can be smart, you can be devious, but you can't outsmart Ahlul Bayt. The Imam alayhi salam said in that case, Rasulullah killed Hamza, because Hamza alayhi salam, Rasulullah's uncle, was killed in Uhud. And who brought Hamza to the Battle of Uhud? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. So by using that example, Amir al-Mu'mineen shattered Amr ibn al-As's word. Any questions?
No, Sheikh.
No questions? جيد. So Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, on that day, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa protected Ammar bin Yasir rahmatullah alayh, and he intervened. He got angry at the companion who threatened Ammar. But, Ya subhanallah, after the Prophet's death sallallahu alayhi wa that same companion, Uthman bin Affan, not only threatened Ammar bin Yasir, but he actually beat him. This was one of the crimes of Uthman bin Affan. Again, we say with all due respect to our Sunni brothers and sisters, we're not mentioning this to, just to bash Uthman bin Affan. That's not my intention. The intention is to look at Islamic history and understand what happened. Uthman bin Affan, unfortunately, performed multiple crimes when he was in power. One of them was mistreating the companions of Rasulullah, such as Abu Dhar, rahimahullah. Abu Dhar gets exiled from land to land, from one land to another, until they put him in a deserted land called Rabda or Rabada. And over there he dies out of starvation. Imagine, he starves to death. And he's Abu Dhar, he's one of the elite companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why do they exile him from one land to another? Because Abu Dhar used to do Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahi an al Munkar. If he saw something wrong, he would say this is wrong. He didn't care. He was very brave when it came to enjoining good and forbidding evil. And he didn't care whether people scolded him or not. He would speak the truth. Knowing that the truth is with Ali alayhi salam, you'd understand what Abu Dhar would say. Abu Dhar would definitely support Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And that did not please the opposition, those who opposed Imam Ali. Hence, he was exiled from one land to another. In fact, it is mentioned that he came to our country, to Lebanon, which was not existing back then. Yani, there was no such thing as Lebanon, rather there was Bilad al-Sham. Bilad al-Sham were basically Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Jordan. All of those were called Bilad al-Sham. So he came to the southern parts of Lebanon and he, left his blessed touches on that land. Rahmatullah. Also, Uthman mistreated who? Ammar ibn Yasir. He beat Ammar ibn Yasir. To what extent? What did he do to Ammar? Let us read an important tradition on this regard, which you can find in a book called Ansab al-Ashraf. Ansab al-Ashraf. We're going to divide the tradition into parts. Okay, we'll look at one part after the other, inshallah, and we'll explain what happened. So in Ansab al-Ashraf, the tradition says, حدثنا عباس بن هشام بن محمد عن أبي مخنف في إسناده. So a man called Abbas bin Hisham bin Muhammad said that Abu Mikhnaf mentioned a chain of narrators, and the primary narrator said, كان في بيت المال بالمدينة صفة فيه حلي وجوهر. The narrator says, during the days of Uthman, there was what? There was a box or a container which contained jewelry and precious stones. And this box was in Bayt al-Mal. What's Bayt al-Mal? Bayt al-Mal is the room or the chamber or the building that contains the money of the Muslims. The money of the Muslims. For example, if you brought your zakat, your khums, and other, mandatory payments to the Imam or to the Prophet ﷺ, they would put that money where? In Bayt al-Mal. So in Bayt al-Mal, there was a box that had jewelry and precious stones. فَأَخَذَ مِنْهُ عُثْمَانٌ. Just 1 second, sorry. فأخذ منه عثمان ما حل به بعض أهله. Uthman took some of that jewelry and some of those stones and gave it to who? To some of his women. Now we need to understand that jewelry and those stones belong to who? They belong to the Muslims. If something is in Bayt al-Mal, it's for Muslims in general, not for a specific individual. So Uthman has no right to come and use the money of the Muslims without their permission. فَأَظْهَرَ النَّاسِ الطَّعْنَ عَلَيْهِ فِي ذَلِكَ. Here people were displeased and began speaking negatively, badly about Uthman. وَكَلَّمُوهُ فِيهِ بِكَلَامٍ شَدِيدٍ حَتَّى أَغْضَبُوهُ. Here they spoke to him in a harsh manner to the extent they angered Uthman. Also keep in point that one of the crimes of Uthman was distributing Bayt al-Mal, or Mal Bayt al-Mal, distributing the money of the Muslims amongst his family members. As Imam Ali alayhi salam describes in Al-Khutbah al-Shakshakiyya, the third sermon in Nahj al-Balagha, Uthman went on distributing the wealth of the Muslims amongst Banu Umayyah, such that it is said he gave Marwan ibn al-Hakam the khums of Africa. The khums of Africa. Marwan was a cursed man. Rasulullah cursed him and his father. And Rasulullah deported him from Medina. So you can imagine how evil this man was. Even then he gets the khums of Africa. Whilst Abu Dhar dies out of starvation. And Abu Dhar is from the elite companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For these things, these crimes, later on they lead the people to revolt against Uthman and to kill him. Nonetheless, let's go back to the tradition. The tradition says that they spoke to him in a harsh manner to the point that they angered Uthman. Here, what happened? Let me send you the second part. Here, Uthman delivered a sermon. It says, فَخَطَبَ. What did he say in that sermon? فَقَالَ لَنَأْخُذَنَّ حَاجَتَنَا مِنْ هَذَا الْفَيْءِ وَإِنْ رَغِمَتْ أُنُوفُ أَقْوَامٍ. He said that we're going to take as much money as we need from Bayt al-Mal, even if people are displeased with our acts. So it's as if he's saying, there's nothing you can do about it. I'm going to take the money I need from Bayt al-Mal. And whether you're pleased or displeased does not matter. Here the commander of the faithful alayhi salam intervened. فقال له علي عليه السلام إذن تمنع من ذلك ويحال بينك وبينه. The Imam told him, if you try to do so, then you will be stopped. As in, we won't let you commit that crime openly. Here you might ask, but didn't he do so? Ultimately, you just said that he went on distributing the wealth of Banu Umayyah, the wealth of the Muslims amongst Banu Umayyah. Sah, he did so. But what's happening here is what? Uthman is openly saying, I'm going to do so and so. So the Imam alayhi salam is telling him, if that's the case, then know that you will meet an opposition. And people won't allow you, at least a group amongst them, won't allow you to do so. Jayyid? So possibly what the Imam means to say is, if you're going to do this openly, then we're going to stop you from doing it. That's one. Secondly, whatever the Imam alayhi salam mentioned actually took place. Because it is true that Uthman distributed the wealth of the Muslims amongst Banu Umayyah, but that did not last for long. It did not last for long, as in this led Uthman to his own killing. It led Uthman to his own killing. جيد? So there was an opposition that rose against him and, did something to change their circumstance. وقال عمار بن ياسر أشهد الله أن أنفي أول راغم من ذلك. Ammar said, I make Allah my witness that I am the first person who will be displeased by this matter. So what do you realize here? That Ammar rahmatullah alayh objected against Uthman. But in a peaceful manner. He didn't say, I'm going to kill you, or I'm going to, gather an army against you. He just said, I am the first person who will be displeased. It's as if he's saying, I am the first one who opposes you in this act, O Uthman ibn Affan. And I don't agree with what you're doing, although there's nothing I can do. فقال عثمان أعلي يا ابن المتكاء تجترئ. Uthman addressed who? Ammar. He didn't address Imam Ali alayhi salam. Why? In a bit we'll mention why. He addressed Ammar. He told him, do you have the audacity to speak against me, O son of the Matka? Now, the word Matka, to be honest, I don't want to tell you what it means. It's enough to know that it's a vulgar word. Yabn al-Matka is a foul word. Unfortunately, this is how he addressed Ammar ibn Yasir. He mentioned the foul word through which he disrespected Ammar and his mother, Sumayya rahmatullah alayhim. خذوه, he said. He told his guards and his, companions, take Ammar. فأخذ ودخل عثمان فدعا به فضربه حتى غشي عليه. Here Ammar was taken, and Uthman entered his house or his, mansion, wherever he was residing, and did what? He summoned Ammar, and he began beating him to the extent that Ammar fainted, rahmatullah alayh. Realize? So whatever he wanted to do during the days of Rasulullah actually took place after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. حتى غشي عليه ثم أخرج فحمل حتى أتي به منزل سلمة زوج رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We say صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. So Ammar fainted. Here Ammar was taken out of Uthman's house or mansion. He was taken out of his house or mansion to where? To the house of Salama alayhi salam. Realize Ammar was still unconscious. Until when did he remain unconscious? The tradition says, فَلَمْ يُصَلِّ الظُّهْرَ وَالْعَصْرَ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. He did not pray Dhuhr, Asr, nor Maghrib. So he was knocked out for several hours. فَلَمَّا أَفَاقَ توضأ وصلى وقال الحمد لله ليس هذا أول يوم أوذينا فيه في الله. When he woke up, he performed wudu, then he prayed and he said, all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not the first day in which we've been hurt for the sake of Allah. As in, there were multiple days in my life in which people hurt me because I stood with Allah and Rasulullah, because I stood with the truth. Starting off with what day? With the day the mushrikeen were torturing Sumayya, Yasir, and Ammar rahmatullah alayhim. And as a result, Sumayya and Yasir got killed. Ammar alayhi salam rahmatullah alayh realized that he had two options. Either he insults the Prophet, because that's what the mushrikeen were demanding him to do, or he gets killed. So what did he do? He performed taqiyya, and he gave them what they wanted. He insulted Rasulullah with his tongue only. He didn't mean to insult the Prophet whatsoever. Even then he felt sorry for what he did and he cried. But Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa wiped the tears of Ammar and told him that he was excused. And he told him, if they come to you again and they torture you again, then give them what they want again. As in, perform taqiyya and say whatever they want you to say. Protect your life and perform taqiyya, ya Ammar. In fact, Allah Azza wa Jal brought down a verse in the Quran supporting Ammar ibn Yasir, saying, إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. In this verse, Allah says, Azza wa Jal, that basically if someone is forced to utter the word of disbelief, whilst his heart is at belief, whilst his heart is at peace because of his belief, then that person won't be scolded, nor will he be held accountable for his word. Because his word, although it seems to be a word of disbelief, it's only coming out by force. It's not stemming from his heart. It's only stemming from the tongue. Jayyid. So we realize from this tradition in Ansab al-Ashraf that Uthman heavily beat Ammar. I mean, what happens to a person, or in better terms, how do you get a person to faint and to remain unconscious until several hours pass? Obviously, you have to strike him either in sensitive places on his body, or you have to beat him excessively. We're not done with the tradition, but our time is up for today. Let me just answer one question that we posed, and inshallah next week we'll continue with this topic. The question was, Uthman answered Ammar, but he didn't answer Imam Ali alayhi salam, although Imam Ali objected as well. Why? It seems that he was afraid from Amir al-Mu'mineen's response. As in, he could see that Imam Ali salawatullah alayhi was firm in his stance, and that if he responds to Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Ali won't remain silent. And everyone, the friends and foes of Ali, know who is Ali ibn Abi Talib, and that when things get serious, there's no joking around with Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam. So it seems that this is the reason why he avoided responding to the Imam. Rather, he responded to Ammar ibn Yasir rahmatullahi alayhi. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala al-Mustafa Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.